Okay, so to expand on my 1 minute review of Wolfman 2025, I gave it 6.8 and I called it a missed opportunity. I just wanted to expand on that a little bit. Film is based around the Wolfman, story as old as time, get bitten by a wolf, infected, X, Y, and Z. You know the premise already. Comes in at 1 hour 43. It could have been a solid hour and a half. It was about 13 minutes too long. For me, the film is solid but not spectacular. And that's what I kind of expected. I kind of expected solid but not spectacular. It didn't really exceed my expectations, nor did it let me down horrendously. However, I did think it had some interesting ideas that could have maybe made it a film that surpassed my expectations. It had interesting ideas, and the execution was largely good up until the third act. Well, what I call the third act, because they kind of split the third act into two, and therein lies the problem. Also, this was miscast, and I will explain a little bit about why that is. People will say, well, what was your problem with the casting? My problem with the casting, it was either with the casting or with the writing, because you had Julia Garner playing the mother and Matilda Firth playing the daughter. It wasn't very clear at the outset that they were mother and daughter. In fact, they must have noticed this in the edit because it seemed like it was a very added pickup shot. I might be wrong here. But it felt like added dialogue to me when they were sat on the step near the start of the film and she has to clarify, yeah, I feel like I'm losing my relationship with I'm not good at being with my daughter. That's something I've been not as good at, because up until that point it's not clear really whether she's Blake's sister and looking after Ginger. It's not clear. It's honestly I was wondering until they explained it there. I was wondering slightly. I don't think it necessarily needed the subtext of she's the breadwinner because he lost his job and she's stressed with work. She's a journalist, hard nosed journalist, and she has to work hard. I don't think it needed that subtext in there, and because they wanted to force that in, it kind of confused the dynamic. If she'd have just walked in, given her husband a kiss, and they sit down to dinner and they're all a happy family, you wouldn't need then the exposition to set the extra dialogue to say, oh, by the way, this is my daughter. That's effectively what that line of dialogue was saying. The line of dialogue was effectively just saying, um, this is my daughter, by the way. That's the relationship dynamic that I have. That's what this character is. And they wouldn't have needed that if they hadn't have done the thing where they felt very distant and you weren't really sure what the relationship was, because she kind of walks into the house and she's on the phone with her editor and he asks her politely to take it in the other room, which I'm a fan of, by the way, not being funny. But you walked into the room already on the phone. Go straight into the bedroom or something, finish your call, then come out. Like, it's very rude to walk into a room and just be on a phone call and expect everybody else to kind of talk in hushed tones when you've entered the room on your phone. I thought that was a dick move. I don't know if you were supposed to feel like that, but that's how I felt. Anyway, and because they spent so much time trying to shoehorn in that dynamic of their relationship being on the outs, we weren't aware they had a relationship at all. We're just getting to know these characters. So the fact that they immediately put them on the outs makes you question were they ever on the ins. Does that make sense? Wasn't required for the film at all. Wasn't required. That takes nothing away from the film if they're just a happy family going up to get the belongings of the guy's father, and then Wolfman events ensue. So that was my problem with the cast. It was either the casting or the writing needed to be better in that respect, one or the other. Now, aside from that, the whole plot was kind of obvious, like the whole way through. But I'm not saying that as a bad. It's not a terrible thing. Sometimes you don't want to think too much when you're watching a film, right? Now, I'm going to try and explain my problems with the third act without doing any spoilers. My main problems is that you had the first act, which set everything up in some bits better than others. Like I said, I don't think it needed the dynamic of them being on the outs. I don't think it was required at all. In fact, I think it added more confusion than it did furthering the plot. They set everything up, with the father going missing 30 years ago, and then having to, and the whole Wolfman legend, the legend of the Wolfman in that area, in that part of the world. And the jump scares are fantastic. They did brilliant things with the creature transformation. The most interesting thing, actually, I really enjoyed, is you see inside his head. He loses the ability. He can hear his family's talking to him, but he can't understand what they're saying. And so it just shows the gradual decline of his humanity and him turning into a beast, which I thought was very interesting, because we've all seen the Wolfman transformation in the past in the physical sense, but they explored the mental. I don't think they did it quite enough, though. I think they'd either like to see more of that. And then they build up to this crescendo of the big conflict. They all builds up in what I was eyeing up as the third act. This is the third act. This is the climax. And then they had an opportunity. I won't spoil it, right? Because I don't want to give too much away. But there was an opportunity to end the film, and they should have taken it, because it was only about 15 minutes before the actual end of the film. But it's like they could have ended the film, opened the door for a sequel, which I'm a fan of. It would have been a more satisfying ending. It would have made much more sense. But then they continued for another 15, 20 minutes with like a kind of act 3.1, which where it was difficult to make sense of the intent of the antagonist at that point. And it's murky, and they seem to go one way and then another way, and it felt like they didn't know what they were doing at this point in terms of the writer room, where they were going, where they were headed, which for me makes the third act into an absolute car crash. It turned the film from something I was enjoying to something I couldn't wait to get out of. Now, if they'd have ended it when they should have ended it, I'd have been like, yes, that was good. It was concise. It did everything that I wanted it to do. It stayed in its lane, solid but not spectacular, slightly exceeded my expectations. I probably would have given it maybe a 7.3 at that point, because it's slightly better than average, in my opinion, if they ended it when I thought they should have ended it. Instead, they carried on, and they managed to do the thing to me, which is the cardinal sin for a film. I should never be checking my watch. I should never ever be checking. If I'm in a film and I am checking my watch, that means your runtime is off, and it's just not interesting enough to justify that runtime. And that was the biggest problem with this film. All in all, I did enjoy it. If you enjoy creature movies, it's a solid one. It's okay. It's well worth going to watch. If you're a fan of cinema, go and watch it. If you don't go to the cinema, this one's probably, if you only go to the cinema for really spectacular films that are going to knock your socks off, this ain't going to do that. So probably better to save your money for something else. But if you're an avid cinema goer and you enjoy creature films, this is a 6.8, could have been a 7.3. I wanted to just expand on that. I'm probably going to do some more expansions on what I feel about these films, because I do like doing the 1 minute ones, but I also do like discussing cinema, because damn, do I like going to the cinema. So as always, yeah, this was a 6.8 for me, but as always, 7 thumbs up, and see you next time.